All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for being here today and being invested in the future workforce and learning a little bit on how to build and implement a high school internship program. So with that, I will go ahead and get started with the presentation. So as Elisa mentioned, my name is Amy Johnson. I'm owner of Cardinal Consulting Solutions and a career exploration advocate. So I currently oversee youth workforce programs for Ottertail County as the youth workforce navigator and also overseeing a collaborative youth skills training program for our 14 schools. Also in the climate of workforce as part of the Regional Workforce Alliance with the Northwest of Rural Minnesota SAP, on the Workforce Advisory Council with the Minnesota Chamber Foundation, and also for those of you in the West Central Minnesota regions, I am your regional champion for the Minnesota statewide tour of manufacturing this year. So how did I come to know what I know about youth career exploration? Before I became an independent consultant, I was 20 years in the human resources field, specializing in manufacturing and recruitment. Meanwhile, doing that, I always engaged youth for career exploration experiences in the HR role, always knowing that there was importance in connecting with the high school students for that career exploration piece. Also was a past coordinator of the TSMA Manufacturer Career Dream Team. And then as mentioned in the previous slide, my work overseeing the youth workforce programs for Ottertail County. So I think it's important to know just kind of what I'm doing with Ottertail County, because that is where a lot of my knowledge in today's workforce climate with the youth is coming from. So Ottertail County received funding from the American Rescue Plan a few years back during the pandemic, and they decided to use that money for to help with the workforce shortage in Ottertail County. So they developed 3 areas of effort, and that was childcare, housing, and workforce. I oversee their workforce category for that effort, and that is focused on youth workforce. And so I'm bridging our 14 schools within Ottertail County with all of our businesses, all industries, all sizes, building the future workforce and supporting work-based learning in the schools. That work was supplemented with the Youth Skills Training Program, a grant provided by the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. And this supports paid work experiences for 16 and 17-year-old student learners to participate in safe, healthy, and meaningful on-the-job training at our employer sites. And so our YST program is focused on advanced manufacturing, agriculture, automotive, and healthcare. And I will say currently, we are most popular with the manufacturing industry in Ottertail County. So how does my work support this program? So my work in overseeing those programs is really recruiting students for career exploration from our 14 schools, creating those introductions between stakeholders, which are our schools, businesses, and community partners, coordination of student activities with businesses, and I also help with coordination and strategic guidance of student placement and employer site. And that really comes from what we're doing today is, I want to do this, but how? How did it help me get there? So what I hope that your takeaways today are after this presentation, I want you to have a better idea, a little more clarity on how to build and implement a high school internship program, and use this experience to identify areas within your manufacturing business to offer career experiences. We're so quick to jump to, yeah, we want students to weld and work with robotics and do machining. But as all of you in manufacturing know, there's so much more to it than that. And that's where I want to dig a little deeper today as well. So my hopes for you is that this motivates you to motivate your team because it does take buy-in from all to do this work. I would love you to be prepared to put a plan in place and then feel ready to outreach to area schools to start engagement. And this work data is always important, and I work with my partners at DEED to dig into data. So Gen Z is the generation that we're talking about today. This is those that are 25 and younger, and it's an increasingly engaging population in the workforce. By 2030, 30% of the workforce will be Gen Z. Students that have a career and technical education experience that includes work-based learning in their school are more likely to stay and work in their home region. And Minnesota DEEP conducted a survey with high school students, and the results support the notion that students do want to hear from employers. So in our region in West Central Minnesota, Lakes Country Service Co-op worked hard this school year to make sure that all schools have the credentials that they need to offer work-based learning. That supports the work that we're doing in order for the schools to get the credit and availability for additional funding. So just working together with partners so that we can really succeed this work. The exit of boomers from the workforce and the rise of Gen Z as the dominant workforce generation is turning everything we know about recruiting and retention on its head. And we've been using recruiting and retention strategies that have been antiquated for decades. They're out of date and they need innovation. So you are ahead of the curve by focusing on career exploration. And what are benefits of engaging with youth? So building partnerships with schools, teachers, and school admin will create a talent pipeline for your business. You will be considered for student opportunities if your brand is in front of the students and you're invested in the work. The workforce climate demands strategic change, and youth will bring fresh perspective to your business if you let them in your doors and invite them to the conversation. I think this is important to hear. So this is what I hear students say. So we've been on 7 field trips this year with just under 20 businesses in all industries. But regardless of industry, that experience of being in a business behind the walls, seeing inside of those businesses that they drive by all of the time, and just hearing the things that they're saying when they don't think anyone's listening, like, I didn't know that they did this here. So cool. I didn't know I could learn that skill here. We were at a Shoretex, which is a company that sews boat covers. And the student wants to be a fashion designer. And their barrier is they don't know how to sew. And I said, okay, well, there's a business close to home. Go work there. If you can sew a boat cover, I'm pretty sure you can sew a dress. And they were so excited. So it's little things like that. I can't work here because I don't know how to do that. It amazes me that many students don't realize that you offer training and that learning is acceptable. They don't understand that they can show up and not know anything and that you will train them what they need to know. They say, I could see myself doing this. Students don't know what they don't know. Once they see, feel, and even smell the environment, they know. They know if this is something that they want to do or don't want to do. They say, oh, I will never do this. This is okay too. This is a success story because this means we just saved an employer turnover or an industry turnover. And they say, this is me. And this happens when they find their spark. When they're in that environment, they love what they see, they feel, they're watching the employees do their work. This is my favorite moment. And so I have an example where a sophomore student that knew that they wanted to work in a lab environment. We were at a healthcare facility. We were touring the lab and she said, oh, this is me. And we had a really hard time getting her out of that lab, but I got to watch her find her spark and know that this is what she wants to do. And that wouldn't have happened if she didn't leave school that day and tour that facility and find her spark in that lab. So very valuable moments of listening to the customer who is the student. So your first step is to start with engagement and outreach. So what is the goal here? to attract students that have interest in manufacturing and want to explore careers at your facility. Identify how you are willing and able to engage with students. Here on the screen is 9 common ways to engage with the schools. This is what I'm in our schools educating them on different ways that businesses will reach out to them to engage, and vice versa, talking to businesses like today about it. Really your first step is really that company tour. That gives you the ability to bring in lots of kids at one time, lots of students. So after that tour, follow up with the teacher that brought them there. Tell that teacher how you are willing to engage with the students. And if you have your internship plan in place, tell them that you have a plan in place and that you're ready to accept interns. And then make a flyer for that teacher to print and pass around the classroom that really lines out your internship plan and program. A couple other creative ideas I have heard in ways of engaging is conducting a webinar to reach high school students, parents, and educators to teach them about your careers and internship programs, host an open house, and then outreach to local organizations that are already engaged with students. So this is a little bit of the easy button. If you're not already connected to organizations like the Boys and Girls Club, the Scouts, YMCA, STEM programs, make partnerships with these programs to help build that bridge. And train your supervisors and hiring managers about Gen Z and how to create a collaborative environment. So a question I get a lot, and probably the biggest barrier of the program for businesses to reach schools, is, I don't know who to contact. And honestly, I don't have the time to figure it out. So I'm going to tell you right now, and it doesn't take very long, to look through the staff directory online of your local school and do keyword searches for work-based learning, career in tech ed or CTE, agriculture. Usually there's the ag teacher does way more than ag these days. Shop teacher, even school counselors, they're very invested to make sure that that email gets to the right teacher. So you can create a list of the schools that are around you. Students will typically go up to 30 miles one way. Create a list of those ag teachers, work-based learning coordinators, shop teachers. Get on their radar and stay engaged. An easy way for a manufacturer to get their foot in the door with a shop teacher is to ask them if they would like your scrap for shop projects. So if you have a lot of scrap and it's useful to schools, distribute it between as many schools as possible. Those students will remember where that scrap came from. So in line with brand awareness in the school, so now you've engaged the schools, so you want to keep engaging the schools to bring those students in. How are you getting your brand in front of the students? So I'm going to open up my chat here, and I would love for you to share with everyone, how are you getting your brand in front of students? And while we wait for responses, I'm going to give you a crazy idea that I have that I would love to see come to life. This is specific to manufacturing. So on the left, I've created this generic sticker with a made-up welding company. But my thought as I tour CTE labs in the schools is, how cool and easy would it be to put a sticker on this welding machine that is branded by a welder, a local welder, and just says something simple like, we'll pay you to use this machine, we'll pay you to weld, or come weld with us, or whatever it may be, with a QR code to your website so that they can get to your employment page. Just something that I don't see when I tour CTE labs, there's signs in windows, there's stickers in windows with just a company's logo, but nothing that specifies what kind of manufacturing careers those companies offer. So how is the student going to know, if they haven't had the opportunity to go into your business, what you really have to offer? So I'm a little shocked here. I don't have anything in the chat. Am I seeing that right, Elisa? Oh, thank you. We just had a tour of high schoolers and passed out stocking hats with our logo. Okay, students love hats. They will wear that hat all day. when we go do tours and they get a hat that is on their head all day. They do love that. There's always your career expos virtual tour. During the pandemic, tons of manufacturers put together a virtual tour. Teachers are still using those. If yours is still current, feel free to email that link to the teachers. Go into the classroom and speak to the students. Go visit the school during lunch hour. That's a trending thing right now. Bring your swag into the lunchroom, bring a 6-foot table and talk to the students that are walking through about careers. And if your manufacturer makes food of any kind or candy, they will eat that also. Sarah, school employer advisory councils. Yes, great. So that's advisory councils on doing this work, right? Just making sure that it's being done in the school to the best of its ability. Good, thank you. So just recently, I surveyed Fergus Falls High School students who are in work-based learning activities right now in internships. And so I asked them 2 questions. One of them was, what do you love about your internship experience? And my question for you is, why is getting the student's perspective so important in this work? I have been using the student's perspective in this work since day one. In manufacturing, do you aim to have the perfect product for your customer? So who's your customer in an internship program? The student. So the goal is to introduce students to your workforce in hopes that they will stay working with you beyond their internship or come back when they're ready. So here's a tip in this process. If you have an intern already working for you, ask them to help put this program together. I've done that in a few different businesses and they are all in, they love it. Or invite a student into your work to build this program with you. So regarding the survey results, some specific feedback that I received from students in line with given projects. So the students like it when they're given projects. They like it because they get to work independently, they see the results in their work, and they feel like an employee because they were trusted to do a job. And these are all words straight out of a student. So treated like an employee, that's big. And it makes sense, right? They want to be treated like everyone else. They want to be invited to employee meetings and department meetings. They say we feel like outsiders when we're left behind. And we want to feel like part of the team. We want to know what they're talking about in those meetings. So give them employee incentives and or swag, as we talked about, and give them as many reasons as possible to come back and work for you or stay working for you. Another thing that they mentioned a number of times is an accessible supervisor. So open communication with a mentoring relationship is what they're looking for. Someone that's always available for questions. They also like to explore different areas, and this is very important when an intern is job shadowing, when hands-on is not an option. And I don't know if it surprised you, but it surprised me that people interaction was number 1, because what's talked about with the students these days is they don't like to talk to people. Well, they proved to me that we're wrong. They like having interaction with people, and people being their coworkers, their mentor, their supervisor, and even customers. They like talking on the phone to customers and in person to customers. And even mentioning community partners. They like to be in conversations with community partners and build those networks. So obviously, no 2 students are the same. So we're not talking about every student, but the majority does like people interaction. So on the flip side, I asked, all right, tell me if there was anything you can change about your internship, what would that be? And so these students, they go 4 days a week, 2 hours a day for their internship for a whole semester. And they rotate. Sometimes they're at one place the whole time. Sometimes they go to 2 or 3 different businesses throughout the semester. So what do they wish that they could change? They don't like it when there's not enough variety. They say it's boring. They put us where they need us, not necessarily where we would learn to benefit the most. Notice here the dominating dislike, an internship without a plan. So as you can see, they notice when an internship is not prepared for. They say, without a plan, we get lost. We prefer to have direction and like to know what to do when there is downtime. So this alone warrants the work put forth in preparing for your interns with an organized plan. Now I am wondering, raise your hand and the little icon if this image is familiar to you. This usually is familiar to school districts and individuals that are sitting on school boards. I don't see any hands, so I know this is a lot to look at. So I'll kind of explain what it is. So the Minnesota Career Fields Clusters and Pathways chart is a tool that most Minnesota schools use to help set programs of study and career and technical education. Many guidance or career counselors use this tool to help students plan their class schedules in correlation with the results of their interest assessment that was conducted at the school. They also use this tool to help guide a student to choosing a career path. So if you're a business in Minnesota engaging with schools, it's important to cross-reference the careers listed on this tool with the careers you offer at your business. So Elisa just helped us out by putting a link in the chat that brings you to the Minnesota Department of Education site, where you can print your own copy and highlight the careers, fields, or clusters that you offer experiences at your place of business. And as you see from the link as well, this is a tool developed by the Minnesota Department of Ed. It brings you to their site with a little more information about the why. This could also help you start your list of the areas you can offer a student to explore. So as you can see, students have a lot of choices here. And how many of these careers do you think they have experienced? That's why it's especially important that you also offer a diverse list of careers for students to experience within the manufacturing environment, on and off the production floor. As you filter through these pathways, don't limit yourself to what is on here. Add any and all careers that you want students to know that you offer. So let's zone in on just a couple career fields quick. Just so you understand that the students that are looking at this is the career field that the students might jump to if they have an interest in manufacturing. You'll see many familiar jobs listed here, and you may see missing jobs that are equally or more important. Another reason why offering students a broader list of careers in manufacturing that they can choose from, maybe in your case, that list for you as part of your internship program is broken down by your departments and what jobs or what hierarchy those are by department. So here are two career fields that students may not consider as manufacturing related, but you and I know that they are. So these two career fields have clusters within them that many manufacturing facilities do offer careers in. Marketing, business management and administration, finance, and information technology. How many of these career choices can your business offer experiences in? So another question I get, how long should an internship last? Best answer is, it depends. There's really no solid answer here because you are at the mercy of the student and school's schedule. When there's a work-based learning situation, there are some schools, especially closer to the metro, that have full-time work-based learning coordinators, and they will have students that do spend the semester in industry. And there are schools that don't, And then they're basing it off of where the students are at with credits and what their schedule is and when they can find that time to get them out into industry to explore careers. I would prepare in your internship program for a full semester. It's easier to be over prepared and scale back than to add last minute experiences. So if you are prepared for a full semester, and what that might look like is, let's say that, because you have some schools on semesters, some schools on trimesters. So in our case, we have 14 schools, so we have a lot of variables. But let's use a 6-week internship length as an example. So you would create your list of business or your list of careers that they can explore in your company. You will allow the first 3 weeks of that 6 weeks for the student to explore different areas. Halfway through the internship, sit down with the intern to find out what their favorite area was, and then allow them to spend the remaining 3 weeks exploring their favorite spot, or maybe there's a couple. Sometimes you have 9 weeks. Sometimes you have 2 weeks. Sometimes a student's only available for a job shadow, which that's a different experience. So we're just focusing on the internship today, which is a more organized, productive experience. So things to consider again is the student's availability, how long they plan the internship to last, and does the student have specific interests already? If they're undecided, but they're interested in manufacturing, bring them through all the areas of exploration on and off the plant floor, because you will never know where they will find that spark. So once you have put your plan together and you are inviting a student in to have that meeting, some discussion points are, again, availability. What are you interested in exactly? They might say, I want to be an engineer. All right, that could mean different things. What kind of engineer do you want to be? Well, I only know about one because that's what my dad does and my uncle, and that's what I want to do. So it's getting them to explore the different kinds of engineering that you might offer within your business, or even what about quality engineer? As you are aware, there are so many options, and those are the options that we want to make sure that the student understands. So what is the desired outcome? Some of the questions you could ask is to the student, what is important to you in this experience? What is it that you hope to learn from this? Do you prefer to work hands-on, or would you rather job shadow? How many careers do you want to explore? Do you want to zone in? If they have any bit of uncertainty, bring them through the whole program. And moving right along. So building a process to launch your program. For the most successful program, you would have a program coordinator. So you would assign somebody in your business to be that person. Whether that person be in human resources or in any admin position or even on the floor. It's not a full-time position. It's just a person that's the first point of contact for intern inquiries from the school, from the parent, or from students. I have students that reach out to me that want different opportunities, and so I connect them with the right people to make sure that it happens. But what if they got your receptionist or somebody who really has no idea what the plan is, or if it's something that the company is considering? That student would get a no, their search would be over, and they would move on. So to have that planned point of contact for those questions is important. And that's also somebody that can keep a consistent process across all interns that you work with. And also hold the company accountable for the organized program that you would keep and the continued success of it. Another thing that we've been talking about this whole time is designing your internship pathways. So what are the positions that you want students to be exposed to? Is it your most high in demand positions? Is it the positions that you have vacancies for all the time? Or my recommendation would be all of the positions, all that you can. What if you have a student that's interested in leadership? Where do you put them? They could go on the floor. We know manufacturing is a great workspace for building leaders. They can be a floor leader, a production manager, an operations manager, or they can be over on the admin side somewhere, leading a team there. There's so many opportunities within manufacturing for that. So what will the student do in these departments? I would recommend working with your leaders for determining this. So you know you want a student exposed to your quality department. Work with the quality team. What do they think is important to know within that? What would have helped them to know before they went to college for it or before they started working there? What would have they liked to know? So follow your exploration timeline based on students' availability. We talked about that. Allow student to choose a favorite area for second half of their internship. And at the very end of the internship, it's very hard to measure ROI on these internship programs. But I think this is a way to get that ROI from this, maybe on an emotional level. So coordinate a final presentation for the student to present to leaders of the company. They will do this. Somebody has to coach them through this. They will do this. I see students doing this often, and it works, and it's incredibly valuable. So the student will talk about what did they do during their internship? What did they learn? What was defined in their career path? This not only builds communication skills with the student, it builds confidence and professionalism. Use this process year after year and make enhancements to it as needed. Another couple important points to add to the program is making sure that you're incorporating one-on-ones to check in with the student. Speaking to the students myself, that's something that is of great value to them. Just as employees might like to have one-on-ones, your interns do as well. So checking in on the process, assigning the right mentor, making sure your mentors are, that's who your student will shadow, making sure they're positive examples with good working habits. And they're teaching the student accountability, and they're able to assign those downtime tasks. And then something to keep in mind also is once you have a program in place, that student, where are they going when they're not at your business? They're at school with all of their friends and other students. I have an example. We have a student that's going to a manufacturer in Fergus Falls, and he's welding. He's part of the YST program, and he loves it. And turns out now he's told all of his friends how much he loves it, that manufacturer is getting a bunch of interns next year because they put together a process that this student enjoys and feels valued in. And he's told his friends about it. There's a lot of power in that as well. So another question I get asked is, how do I allow a 16 and 17-year-old to participate? Especially in manufacturing, I understand the sensitivity of this question. A lot of manufacturers will say, nope, sorry, we don't hire anyone under 18. And I understand. And so there has been a program that was passed in legislation in 2017 to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to receive safe, meaningful, and paid work experiences in positions that might otherwise be deemed hazardous, like welding, machining, robotics. This program was originally put in place for manufacturing and has since grown to additional industries. Alana from Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry, which is what YST is through, she has put a link in the chat if you're interested in learning more about that. And Alana, can you also put your email in the chat if they have additional questions about YST?
Absolutely.
So just because high school is I'm imagining that you're here today because you're wanting to engage with more than 18-year-olds, because that's the end of our high schoolers. So 16 and 17-year-olds would be the next step. Not every position needs to be approved through YST, but in manufacturing, it's a good practice just to get more exposure to 16 and 17-year-olds. And the YST approval process for an employer, if you ask the 5 approved employers that we have so far, they'll say, oh, it's simple. And we don't pay them to say that. They really do think it's a simple process. And so once you identify a participating school near you, all you have to do is show your workers' comp declaration, choose and document what machines and tools you want Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry to approve, and have a virtual safety meeting with the YST program manager at DLI, which is Vessels. It's really a simple process. And the common positions that are requesting approval through YST are shown on the screen here under advanced manufacturing. So if you're wondering where the school is around you, and again, this is just a really important component of a high school internship program if you're wanting to expose 16 and 17-year-olds to positions that you might not right now. So here's a map of YST participating schools by area. So if you recognize an area shaded in near you, reach out to your local high schools to inquire about being a part of the YST program. If you do not see shading near where you're located, that's not a deal breaker. Ask your school if they've considered YST. A school does not have to be a grant recipient to be part of the program. The blue on the map indicates school districts that are grant recipients. The green indicates school districts that are participating, unfunded, and are still partners. And so they're recruiting employers and placing student workers. So this does not have to be a grant funded program in order to get the exception for 16 and 17-year-olds to be in that position. And so I only have one slide left, so we'll take questions here in just a minute because I anticipate some. So as always, when working with youth, please be mindful of your child labor laws. Thank you, Elisa. She just put a flyer in the chat where I just snipped information from and put on this slide. So this is again, Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. And here is an easy way to check in on what those laws are for when a student can work, when they cannot, how long they can, and when their start and end times can be. I do see students that participate in internships during school hours, and they inquire with the employer about working before and after school because they're enjoying the experience. And so that is a win-win, right? Because they're an employee outside of school hours, and they get to have a part-time job now doing what they learned that they love doing. So with that, I would love to invite people to turn their camera on or unmute yourself to ask questions. And Alana, if you wouldn't mind joining me as well. I actually asked Alana to be here today because I am not a YST expert. I work with it a lot, but I don't want to give out wrong information. So we could take advantage of having her today as well, if that's something that interests you.
Should I include the link? There's a presentation. It's pretty general information about YST, but if anyone wants to bring it back to HR managers, I can put that in the chat too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I'm going to just point out in the chat that Sarah Dean, if you're in the St. Cloud metro area and would like to connect to the Boy Scouts Youth Career Exploring Program, she put her email there. Douglas Machine recently started a YST program for a machine shop. It's easy to get started. Thank you, Douglas Machine. Did you want to talk about that at all, Bobby?
Sure. It's actually been a really simple process for us. We've been, like everyone else, we've had some issues with recruiting. So we started looking at alternative options, and we had started partnering with the high school machine shop last fall. And we were looking at different ways to get students interested in coming to a machine shop. So we started talking about the YST program and kind of went through the process. It really was mostly just, yes, we're interested. Here's some safety questions. We had a review with the safety person, and that was pretty much it. Pretty simple.
Simple. Good. So
Thank
good to
you.
hear.
Yeah, and we have we actually have 2 students who interviewed and will be starting shortly. So that's also good.
Good work. Awesome to hear. And then we have Janelle Hansen with Stainless. We partner with a local high school and went through the YST program and currently have a student working. It was simple. I'm wondering where you are from. Is it Janelle?
Yeah, hi. We're located in Avon, Minnesota, so central. So we partner with Holdingford High School currently, and then looking at the surrounding schools too.
Wonderful. Good work. Thank you. Any other questions? Is there any manufacturers that are considering this work and not already doing it? I would love to hear what your hesitations are. I've worked in HR in the manufacturing industry, and the hesitations that I guess I'm used to is really that nope, we don't hire under 18. But I love it when we get this far and we have participants that want to know how to, because it's definitely possible, and you've heard 2 testimonials as to it so far as well. So Rebecca is a YST school. We run into several issues with businesses being hesitant or unwilling to partner because they are unionized and will not create new shifts or jobs for our students. Have you had any experience working around this?
No, I have not run into this one, but I can run it by Rich. So Rich Wessels is the program manager, and he will actually be up at the conference tomorrow and will be presenting as well. So if any of you are going to be at the conference tomorrow morning, he will be there, but I will definitely run that by him. Thank you, Rebecca. I figured you might be. No problem.
Rebecca will be there and she'll ask him. Great.
Ask him in person. And then we can, I mean, I'm sure it'll come up again. So good to have it on the radar.
Well, I'm going to drop my email in chat if anybody has any questions afterwards that I could help with. I'd certainly be happy to do that. Otherwise, I think that's all we have. Lisa?
Well, thank you so much, Amy and Alana. We appreciate your time and the presentation. And like I mentioned, we did record the session today, so please reach out and I can send a link, and it'll also be on our association websites. But other than that, I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.